Good morning. Welcome to Kenya News Update today. I'm your host, and we're beginning with a political storm that's exposing deep fractures within Kenya's opposition and threatening the stability of a crucial national dialogue process. The National Dialogue Committee, known as NADCO, has fired back at Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna over his public criticism of delays in implementing the UDA-ODM 10-point agenda. This isn't just a simple policy disagreement. It's a public clash that reveals a widening rift within the Orange Democratic Movement itself, pitting the party's Secretary General against its leadership and potentially derailing a fragile political truce. For the next 12 minutes, we will dive deep into this developing story, examining the accusations, the counter-accusations, and what this means for Kenya's political landscape under President William Ruto's administration. We'll present multiple perspectives, analyze the specific points of contention, and assess the real-world impact of this internal conflict. Let's first establish the background. Following the contentious 2022 general elections, a period of significant political tension, the National Dialogue Committee was formed. This was a bipartisan effort, a bridge between the ruling United Democratic Alliance, UDA, and the main opposition party, the Orange Democratic Movement, ODM. Its primary mandate was to foster national cohesion and address key issues that had polarized the country. After extensive negotiations, the committee produced a 10-point agenda. This agenda was hailed as a roadmap for political stability and collaborative governance. The key points included critical issues like the reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, addressing the high cost of living, implementing the two-thirds gender rule, and establishing a framework for equitable sharing of national resources. The signing of this agreement was seen as a major step toward cooling political temperatures and creating a functional, if uneasy, working relationship between the government and the official opposition. However, the implementation of this 10-point plan has been slow, a fact acknowledged by all sides. The timeline for action has stretched, with several deadlines passing without the completion of agreed-upon milestones. This is where the current conflict ignites. Nairobi Senator and ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna has become increasingly vocal in his criticism. He has publicly accused the NADCO committee of failing to deliver on its mandate. In media interviews and on his social media platforms, Sifuna has framed the delays as a betrayal of the opposition's supporters and a sign of bad faith from the government side. His rhetoric has grown sharper, suggesting that the dialogue process is being used to pacify the opposition without yielding tangible results. This public airing of grievances broke an unspoken rule within the dialogue framework to keep negotiations and criticisms within the committee's closed doors. The NADCO committee's response on Thursday was swift and firm. Breaking their usual silence on internal disputes, committee members from both sides expressed what they called profound frustration at Sifuna's comments. They issued a statement rejecting the claim that they have failed in their mandate. More significantly, they accused Sifuna of a deliberate misrepresentation of their work. The committee warned sternly against what it termed the politicization of the implementation process. They argued that complex constitutional and legislative changes, which form the backbone of the 10-point agenda, cannot be rushed and require meticulous, bipartisan drafting and consensus building in Parliament. They pointed to ongoing technical committee work that the public doesn't see. From their perspective, Sifuna's public attacks undermine the very trust and goodwill necessary to advance these sensitive reforms. But this story has a crucial second layer, which makes it far more explosive. It appears this is not just a dispute between Sifuna and the NADCO committee. It is a symptom of a deeper leadership struggle within the ODM party itself. On Friday, February 6th, just a day after NADCO's rebuttal, ODM party leader Oburu entered the fray. In a carefully worded statement, Oburu directly addressed Sifuna's conduct. He accused the Secretary General of blurring the line between personal opinion and official party policy. This is a monumental public rebuke from the party's top leader to its chief administrator. Oburu's statement escalates what was a policy disagreement into a full-blown public dispute over the party's leadership, discipline, and strategic direction. It raises a fundamental question: who speaks for the ODM? Is it the elected Secretary General or the party leader and his inner circle? Let's quantify the scale of the agenda at stake here. The 10-point plan isn't abstract. It contains specific, measurable goals. For instance, one major point is the full reconstitution of the IEBC. The Commission currently operates with only 3 of the required 7 commissioners, a deficit of 4 crucial positions. This incomplete body is expected to oversee boundary delimitation exercises affecting over 47 million Kenyans and prepare for the next general election. Another point, addressing the cost of living, directly impacts household budgets. While the government points to a reduction in inflation from a peak of 9.2% to the current 6.8%, opposition critics argue food prices remain prohibitively high for the average family. The two-thirds gender rule, another agenda item, requires constitutional alignment that has stalled in Parliament for over a decade, affecting representation for roughly 52% of the population. These are not minor issues. They are central to governance. Senator Sifuna's critique focuses on the pace. He argues that of the 10 broad agenda items, not a single one has been fully and conclusively implemented in the 16 months since the dialogue report was adopted. He points to the IEBC selection panel, which was finally appointed after a 9-month delay, as an example of the sluggish pace. He contrasts this with the speed at which the government moves on its own legislative priorities. His position resonates with a segment of the ODM base that is growing impatient with any form of cooperation with President Ruto's administration. They view the dialogue committee as a tool for co-opting the opposition, and Sifuna's aggressive stance is seen by them as a necessary return to robust opposition politics. The NADCO committee's defense is rooted in the complexity of the work. They emphasize that these are not simple administrative tasks. Take the IEBC issue. It requires a constitutional amendment bill to change the composition of the selection panel, a process that must go through public participation, parliamentary approval, and potentially involve a referendum. They highlight that behind the scenes, technical teams have drafted 17 pieces of framework legislation related to the agenda items. The committee claims that Sifuna, as a senator, is fully aware of these legislative processes and their inherent timelines, making his public criticism disingenuous. They fear his rhetoric provides ammunition to hardliners on both sides who never supported the dialogue in the first place. The intervention by party leader Oburu changes the calculus entirely. His statement suggests that Sifuna's actions were not sanctioned by the party's top decision-making organ. This exposes a potential power vacuum or a serious communication breakdown within ODM. Historically, the Secretary General is the principal executor of party policy and the chief spokesperson. For the party leader to publicly contradict and chastise the SG indicates a significant rift. Political analysts suggest this could reflect a strategic divergence. One faction, possibly represented by Oburu, favoring back-channel engagement and strategic patience with the government, and another, represented by Sifuna, advocating for a more confrontational public posture to mobilize the party base. This internal conflict weakens ODM's bargaining position in the NADCO talks, as the government side can now question who truly has the authority to negotiate and deliver on agreements. The implications for the average Kenyan are significant. A collapse or further delay of the NADCO process means key reforms stall. The IEBC remains understaffed, casting a shadow over the credibility of future elections. Delays in addressing the cost of living through structured bipartisan measures mean families continue to bear the brunt of economic pressures alone. The promise of a more inclusive and stable political environment fades. Furthermore, this public infighting within the main opposition party could lead to voter apathy or confusion, weakening the system of checks and balances essential for a healthy democracy. It also risks radicalizing political discourse, as factions seek to outflank each other with more extreme positions. Looking forward, several scenarios are possible. Scenario 1, a swift internal reconciliation within ODM. Oburu and Sifuna could reconcile behind closed doors, present a united front, and allow NADCO work to continue with a clear, singular opposition voice. Scenario 2, escalation. The rift widens, leading to possible disciplinary action against Sifuna or his allies, causing factions to solidify and potentially split the party. Scenario 3, status quo of tension. The public sniping continues, paralyzing ODM's effectiveness both in NADCO and in Parliament, leading to a gradual erosion of its influence. The next 48 to 72 hours are critical. Will there be a crisis meeting of the ODM National Executive Council? Will Sifuna clarify or double down on his statements? The response from the UDA side of NADCO will also be telling. They may see this as an opportunity to push for concessions from a divided opposition. In conclusion, the firing back by NADCO at Edwin Sifuna is more than a political spat. It is a flashpoint revealing the immense pressure on Kenya's post-2022 political settlement. It highlights the difficulty of maintaining a collaborative dialogue in a highly competitive political environment. It exposes the internal strains within ODM as it navigates its role as the official opposition under a president from a rival party. The 10-point agenda remains a vital blueprint for addressing deep-seated national issues, but its success hinges on political goodwill and disciplined messaging from all sides. The coming days will reveal whether Kenya's political leaders can prioritize this national project over internal party disputes and short-term political point scoring. The stability of the nation's political environment may very well depend on it. This has been a deep dive analysis. For continuous coverage on this and other stories, subscribe to Kenya News Update today.